Boyle County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, January 25th, 2003. I guess we'll start with an invocation. Dear God, thank you for all the beauty and blessings you've provided to our community. Be with our first responders, our policemen, our firemen, and other public servants. Help them to go through another day without being injured or hurt. And help us to make good decisions today for our city and county. Thank you. Amen. Okay. We have a motion for approval of minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. You want to go over the financial report?
Yeah, just
do you want to? Will you?
Yeah, just briefly on the financial report. If you look at the balance sheet, which is the very first page, if you go down to the bottom, you'll see our ending cash balance at the end of the year was about $103,000. Just to put it in perspective, we started the fiscal year, which was on July 1st, with about $90,000, $91,000 in the bank. So we're positive to what we started the year with. If you flip to the next page, statement of account activities, we're halfway through our budget. So, I mean, ideally, our revenue would be right around 50%, our expenses would be right around 50% of what our total budget was. If you look down about halfway down the page, you'll see total commission revenue for the first 6 months of our budget period. And it's about $104,000, which is 54% of our total budget. So we're actually a little over what we would normally, what you would say if we were halfway through the budget process. So from a revenue standpoint, we're in good shape. Drop below that to expenses and drop to the very bottom line on the page and see total personnel. What you're going to see in a minute is we are quite a bit under budget for expenses, and the reason we are is because of total personnel and because we went for 2-3 months without, anybody heading up our operation before Michaela came on board. And so you can see year to date, we're only about 38% of our total personnel expenses. Normally we would be right on 50% because that is something you can really budget to the penny. Then if you flip over to the last page and go all the way down to the bottom where you see total expenditures, so far for this fiscal year, we've spent about $93,000, which is 42% of our budget. And so again, because of the low personnel expenses, we're running below budget on expenditures. So from a financial standpoint, there's nothing to be concerned about.
Sounds like it would be important to remember that wording when somebody comes and says to us, hey, you guys hold the budget. You don't need to touch them. That's the one.
Yeah, that won't be an issue though.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, so we usually have a motion to accept the financial report.
I move we accept the financial report as reported.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Kayla, you want to go over the construction sureties?
Yeah, I actually, under the call to order, we had introduction of new Boyle County Surveyor, Rich Murphy. I'm not sure if he's here today. Yeah, great. If you want to just step up and say hello. He can tell you the history. I don't think we've had one for 200 years or something like that, so.
Yeah,
Maybe not that long.
it's been a while.
Yes.
But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself, everything. Take this time, let you know if there's anything I could do to help out with the commission. Rich Murphy. I'm a professional land surveyor here in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and been surveying over 30 plus years, and all kinds of boundary, any type of boundary survey stuff. But I live in Boyle County, saw that the position for county surveyor has been open for a while, and decided to see what I could do to help out with it. Talking to people around the county, a lot of people have been here decades, and they don't ever remember having a county surveyor. But I don't know when actually the last official county surveyor came in here, but I know the position's been on the Kentucky Constitution since like 1799. So it's been there forever. I just don't know how long it's gone unfilled. But just, like I say, wanted to say what what I could do to help out with the planning commission, anything. A lot of times you guys get anything dealing with property, subdivisions, things like that. If you need somebody to review it, anything from a surveyor perspective, that's kind of what I'm here to do, is to help out. Any type of plan, anything relating to survey or boundary, properties, things like that you may have, I can help you out with that, review it, if you had any questions, but.
Where is your office located?
The county surveyor position in Boyle County is not a paid position. I don't necessarily have an office. So I have a job, I work with Volkert in Lexington. We do pretty much surveying and more or less engineering design for like utility, like natural gas, things like that. But so this is kind of like my little community helping out thing to do with that. So, but I guess anything. One thing I just want to call it was like the KRS 73090. It I just wanted to read it if you don't mind for a second. It's pretty short. It just says the county surveyor is a member and technical advisor to the county planning commission. They can advise on various technical committees reviewing subdivisions, development plans, and the KRS 73090 states that the county surveyor must be made a member of committees or commissions appointed by the courts to locate, inspect, care for, report on bridges and public improvements. The county surveyor may also be made commissioner to divide land, lay off dower or homestead, to open, alter, or close a public road, or open and close a private passway. So basically, I just work hand in hand with the community to help out with anything that you guys may have. But I just wanted to, I won't take up any more time, but I just wanted to just let you know that we have a county surveyor now, so if you have any questions or any needs, just let me know. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Rich, I apologize for skipping you in the agenda.
No, it's okay. I stepped out for a minute anyway, so I thought I might have missed that little thing, but I appreciate that. So if you have any questions, just give me a holler.
Thanks, Rich.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I kind of snuck it in there on you on the agenda there, so
Have to get bigger glasses, I guess.
you're fine. All right, we just have a few updates for construction sureties. Last month, the commission voted to extend, and sorry, I switched those on the PowerPoint versus the agenda, so I'm gonna go with Hunt Farm Section 5 first, per the agenda. So the commission voted to extend that letter of credit for a year. Jody Sharp has come back and is asking the commission to reduce that letter of credit by $17,269.81, reduced amount of $3,537.19 to be held for remaining sidewalk construction, which is approximately 200 linear feet and includes the 10% project contingency. We do not have a county engineer currently. Dwayne Campbell retired. So I went out and looked at it. I mean, Jody showed me what was remaining. It matches up based on the amount of linear feet that's left and the cost estimate that we received. I think it's sufficient to finish the project, but if the commission doesn't feel comfortable with me trying to take on an engineering role that I'm really not qualified for in any manner, you don't have to do this, but Josh and I did go out and look at Candlewood, and that's how he assessed it as well, so that's how I looked at it.
I'm fine with you doing this particular one, yeah. If
Okay.
you need assistance or you feel you do, reach out.
That's a role that,
I took Josh with me for Candlewood, not for Hunt Farm or
that's a
for the
role
Hidden
that Rich can
Springs.
play as well,
Okay,
as a
That's-
county engineer, or as a surveyor.
as the
He can
surveyor,
function
yeah.
as the engineer.
Okay, that's good to know.
So you
Yeah.
have another resource, which is very good.
I called about 5 different people in the county looking for some help on this one, and until they get a new person in, but I'll start reaching out to Rich in the meantime.
Correct, that's county surveyor can act if needed be, and
Okay.
within my capabilities. I'm not like
Yeah.
an engineer here, but
Yeah.
I have engineers I work with, but anyway, I can help you anything you need.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I'm not questioning the amount of money, but how long has Jody been building the sidewalks to like 200 feet and not just finished?
He's basically doing it lot by lot, so some lots have homes and they're completed and he's put the sidewalks in. Others are still under construction and so he hasn't put the sidewalks in it yet. That's why. The roads are complete. He's just putting the sidewalks in once the homes are
puts the
He
completed.
doesn't
sidewalks
wanna
up.
put a- Right, he doesn't wanna put a sidewalk in front of a lot that he's gonna have to drive trucks over.
Yep, yep. So if you drive up there, it's like, it's very piecemealed as far as which lots are done and which ones still just need the sidewalks to be completed, so.
Jim,
I'd say he's close.
I'm kind of like you. If it shows up next calendar year, in January, I'm going to start pushing to get it finished, whether the lots are done or not. That had been a long time. We need to, because otherwise it just keeps going on and on. I don't know how we can do that one, but it's a reasonable question to ask, especially if the rest of the lots are active. Now you're walking on the sidewalk and there's no sidewalk.
Yep, yep.
At some point, you got to get to that point. It doesn't matter whether you develop that property, we still need to finish the sidewalk.
Yep.
So is there an endpoint on this one in the paperwork? I'm not aware of one.
There's not an endpoint. I mean, like I said, we as the commission extended it for a year.
Mhm.
I don't anticipate it taking a year based on
Okay,
what I'm seeing
well-
out there. It seems like there's very active construction going on, but I don't know what the endpoint's gonna be.
Okay, well, that's my perspective. If I see this thing go through 12 months and it's January of next year, I'm going to say 200 feet. We talked about this last year, let's finish it.
Yep.
And
yep.
put a date
I
on
mean,
it or
At that
something.
point, we could cash the surety and,
Mhm.
have our public works. or,
Exactly what the intent
whoever
was,
finish
yeah.
the project. So we can make that decision in the year if the commission still feels like it needs to be done by then. But,
Okay,
okay. So pretty similar conversation for Candlewood Section 8. Jody Sharp's asking to reduce the letter of credit by $21,737.87. Reduce the amount of $6,493.13 to be held for remaining sidewalk construction. Linear feet includes 10% project contingency. Josh and I went out and looked at
just
this
as a
one.
trivia, was that just a percentage ratio?
Yeah,
It's not-
basically.
There's a fixed cost for have a project manager or coordinator on all these things,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's 200 feet or 800 feet or 1,000 feet.
He actually
Sometimes it's
is.
not a ratio percentage.
He is a bit over on both of them by
Okay.
about $1,000-ish, so
Okay.
beyond the 10% project contingency.
Yeah.
That's just how we looked at it of what's actually remaining. I think the estimated cost was $15 per linear feet. Like I said, most of them are done. There's just a few lots left that need to be completed with the sidewalks, so, but,
I don't expect the inflation will cause the cost to go up dramatically. We've already been a whole bunch
Oh.
of hard inflation.
hopefully not, and I hope this project will be done within, the next 6 months or
But
so.
I'm like you, I would also hope not to run out of money to be able to do it
Yep,
at some point in time.
yep, absolutely agree. So, did we get a motion in the last one? Do we need to get motions in this? Or do you want to do that? We're reducing them. Okay. Okay. If you all are comfortable, I guess we'll just do this as one motion for all three construction sureties, or we can go back and take one for each.
I'm personally fine just doing it as one item.
Okay.
Do we have a motion for all
Well,
three?
I've got to go
He's gotta
through
read
one
the- he's
more,
gotta read the
sorry.
more. Let's do the third
Oh,
one.
okay, one more.
Okay, so Kelly and Ann Griffith, DBA Hidden Springs Properties, 0 Eads Ave. They're asking for a reduced letter of credit by $120,000, reduced amount of $30,000 to be held for 1.5-inch surface asphalt, includes 10% project contingency. Again, we do not have a city engineer for Junction City, but I did go out and take a look. It looks like all curb and gutter, sidewalks, everything are done. It does just need that final asphalt base. The cost estimate for that was $27,890 would be the 10% contingency, so he's asking for $30,000 to be held, so I think it should be sufficient. So he is asking for a reduction in the letter of credit for that. All right, so I can take a motion if you guys are all comfortable. Is there any questions on that?
Do we have a motion to accept them?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the construction sureties report.
Second. All right, all in favor, raise your hand, please. Thank you, unanimous. Okay, do we want to move to, we want, move to subdivision approval? Go over them?
We have only one subdivision approval. And, let's see here. Logan Spoonamore and others have applied for the subdivision of a 5.832 acre parcel of land located at 5035 Lancaster Road, Kentucky Highway 52 in Boyle County. This will be familiar to you all. We divided this property at last month's meeting. However, the Spoonamores wish to have this loop barn connected to the other lot, the other parcel, than what it was originally divided into. So this creates a individual lot that is tract 2A2 with the hoop barn, and it combines it with this tract 2B to create tract 2B1. There were no corrections required. It's ready for final approval. Advantage is the surveyor.
You have a motion for acceptance or any discussion?
I make a motion, we accept.
Have a second? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you, motion carries unanimous. We aren't ready for the second one, Lisa, Kelly Griffin?
Yep, I'll present this one. So
Okay.
Kelly Griffith, Hidden Springs Property, has applied for the subdivision of 12.269 acres located at 0 Knoblik Road at White Oak Road at Kentucky Avenue in Junction City. The property is zoned R1A. This is a major plat. We saw this last month. They're basically looking to combine the two. We looked at, I believe it was Knob View and Dogwood Trace might have been the names of the subdivision. And so now they're looking to combine the two lots and just have it as one major subdivision. It will be a lot more connected than what they were showing previously, so I do like that aspect of it. It did receive preliminary approval. We did ask for several corrections. We are gonna need the table with bearing distances on it. We're gonna need minimum lot width at the building line is 70 feet for the R1A zoning district. Some of the lots that you see along the kind of curves here, a few of them are not meeting that, the setback line. So they're gonna have to show, they're gonna have to revise that to show the setback line at the minimum lot width of the building line. And for the typical street cross-section, we require a 2.5-inch base course and 1.5-inch final surface. And I think they were showing, the final surface was fine, but the 2-inch base, it needs to be 2.5-inch. So that's the only change. They are showing sidewalks on this, just one side, 6-foot sidewalks, which does meet our requirements, our street requirements. So that was all I had for comments on it. Are there any questions on this plat?
How many lots did you find that had that you referred to at the top where you didn't have enough room for the easement?
Oh.
Is it just one of them,
I
or-
didn't note that down. I would say probably 6 or 7.
Okay, so it's multiples, yeah.
Yep. If I pull the file, I marked them.
No, that's a
on the
round
bigger
enough
plat,
number for
sorry.
what I'm doing here. They agree to revise and agree to these things?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna change the lot configuration.
Okay.
I think they're just gonna show the setback lines further back.
You kind of came where I was going. Are we going to do a major reline up of lines? But that's not the intent.
No, that's not the intent.
Okay.
A lot of them, it's not gonna require too much further back, from what they're showing, maybe 5 to 10 feet.
And I don't think you would see it on this paperwork would you? The pin locations, you have to add a table on here, but
Yes, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And they already acknowledged that they were gonna be adding that on,
Okay.
and I asked for it during TRC as well, so.
Are you recommending that we go ahead and proceed to vote on this? Or to agree
Yeah.
to it with those conditions?
Yeah, I think,
Think
I'm
that's-
fine with recommending that,
Okay.
with the approved conditions. The only other item that we kind of discussed in TRC was this
Yes.
intersection here. So they're proposing to create this right-of-way. This is an existing right-of-way of Kentucky Ave. So this is a little bit of a concerning intersection. I honestly don't know what to recommend to do to address it without a major lot reconfiguration, but I think if the commission doesn't feel comfortable with it, that would be one thing to look at.
Yeah, because that was, you were leading where I was at. That corner is,
It's a really interesting place to put an entrance into a subdivision
Mhm.
where there's a blind turn right there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I was concerned
I'm not
about.
an engineer, I just look at that and think, man, and I don't know what the traffic pattern is there. All I know is that with the subdivision, with that many homes going in, it's going to be more.
Yeah.
And there, we have no idea. Yeah, go ahead.
That's not actually a blind intersection from that point.
Excuse me, could
I'm
you-
sorry. Douglas Gooch, AGE Engineering. That's not a blind intersection. From the point where the cars stop, you can definitely see down both roads clearly.
Well,
Talking around that turn.
the
Talking
concern
around
was
that
coming,
Turn on Kentucky Avenue.
yeah, you're
Well,
coming in from the
that-
bottom and you're going to turn to
That's
stay
a
on the road.
90-degree turn.
Yeah.
I'd say, what's the speed there, 25 mile an hour?
I'm just saying, right now,
If we-
about halfway through, there's another road that you suddenly turn left again. So you're doing right and then you're turning left to get on the road. That's, I guess that's where I was coming from. The intersection's not, it's not truly at the corner. So I'm coming from the bottom of the page, I go up there and about halfway through, I'm gonna then turn a hard left. And
I mean,
you're not
that
gonna
road
see the
exists
traffic
there.
coming
I'm
the
just
other way.
like, yeah, that road already exists. Where-
Right.
Yeah.
As Ms. Rita just says, there's a lot of cars that end up in the ditch there already.
Well,
I'm just, my only question is, if I'm coming out of the intersection, or sorry, coming out of the development there, and I'm getting ready to turn, I've got one lot width to see a car coming around the corner. And I just don't know if that's enough. I'm just asking the question.
But, and
Person coming around
I'm trying to
corners,
answer that
you know,
question.
go relatively slow. It's not like it's-
Yeah, it depends on speed. You know, ideally, you'd like to have 6 seconds, and if you're running 55 mile an hour, that's almost 600 feet. But if you're running 25 mile an hour, that's about 200 feet. So, and that gives you the full 6 seconds that the Department of Transportation requires. So we feel like the speeds are slowing up at that 90-degree turn, that we have good, you know, we have as much visibility as you can have at that particular location, and you have adequate time to make a decision. I mean, the alternative would be to try to create a T intersection, but then you have to modify the existing street and get into issues of someone who uses that street might not want a T intersection there. I mean, that was the other alternative, was to actually create a T intersection with stop signs
is
on
it-
both roads.
So would that be like straightening this road out to come up to Kentucky Ave? Is that what you
Yes.
mean by that? Okay.
Yes, but that involves lots of other people's opinions, which,
yeah, it gets really added.
Yeah, yeah.
complicated,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and I guarantee if you ask 10, somebody, or 2 or 3 of them are against that idea. So
Well,
we
there's,
felt like this was the best option.
one of the concerns I have is that people historically put bushes along the property line, and that's in the corner area there, which is not a tree, it's a bush. But cars being as short as they are nowadays, you're not gonna see around until you get your nose out there a long ways. So you're gonna pull up close to where the normal traffic on the bend is already going. So now you have that concern area of being able to get in and out. It just strikes to me to be a very odd right-left turn, that you're potentially creating a situation just by the nature of the routing out of the turns and intersections. That was my concern when we looked at this earlier in the month, and it still extends to be the traffic pattern. If you're coming up the bottom and you're trying to turn left into that big subdivision, or I'm trying to turn right while somebody else is turning, your point's well made. Slow or not, you won't see them until you get to a point of time. And they're not big roads out there. That's not a big road. Is that a nice way to say that, Rita? It's not very big.
I'm telling you. There's a lot of construction right now going on, going in a curve. And I was just going up there to look after we got our packet and see how it was going. I had to back up all the way to not blick. I could not get around that curve. There was so many vehicles sitting there, because I understand it's under construction. And there was a vehicle sitting there working, but you could not get through. And I did get in the ditch, because I don't back up nice.
So as the commissioner from Junction City, you don't
So
really
say-
favor this?
Well, I don't know, maybe they could talk to the city and get it widened.
Well, even if it's not, even if they don't have to widen it, I'm looking at the bottom entrance is also gonna have the same issue. There's gonna be two turns there. I'm not interested in putting a stop to this. All I'm wondering about is, and I'm not even saying, hey, I want you guys to re-engineer this to put the streets in a different place. At some point or another, there's gonna end up being some signage that's gonna need to go in there from, Junction is gonna have to do something to say, hey, there's a stop sign coming up ahead, or there's a street coming up ahead. I don't know. Maybe nothing is gonna need to be done.
Yeah.
I'm just asking you answered the question. You said that, given the speeds.
Yes.
There's enough time for people to see. You answered my question satisfactorily, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Have any more discussion on this? Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, do we have a motion to accept or deny?
I'll make a motion to accept.
All in favor, raise your hand. All right, thank you. Motion carries.
You've looked at it.
So we've done both of them, right?
Yep,
Okay.
we're on to public hearings now.
Okay, so do you want to go over the first Southern one?
Yep, and Doug has handed in an agency letter, so he can speak on it as well. We tabled this zoning map amendment request at the previous meeting. The commission approved the Flume amendment request for this particular tract of land. If you remember, it's 3 tracts surrounding DCA, and then on the northern side of 2168. Yeah, I think basically the reason that the commission had tabled it last month was there was quite a bit of discussion surrounding the permitted uses in the industrial campus district. Oh, yeah. Do we need a motion to take it off the table?
No.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So maybe we should do that first before I
Have a
continue
motion to
carrying
go
on
into
here.
a public hearing?
Take it off the
Yeah.
table.
Okay. Take it
We need to make a motion to take it off the table. We're already in public hearings, my
off.
understanding.
All right,
So I make that motion, please.
okay, do we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Douglas Gooch, AGE Engineering. Michaela's done my job for me already, but I'm gonna hand them out. Your all drafts were difficult for me to follow without color coding, so I color coded the activities that were allowable in there. Good man. And I couldn't follow it sending it up there, so I knew you all were gonna have issues. Thank you.
Do you have another, Doug? Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's just a color
Thanks,
code.
Doug.
Right.
So, we went back, when we were up here before, we're talking about prisons or incarceration locations that were permittable use in the old one, but it's not in this one. And so, I went back and sat down with Jess and talked about, and we read through that whole chapter 5 of describing your all's new zoning ordinance, which I applaud because it gives you all the ability to make some decisions that can be adjusted or that you all can adjust. So it's not just a, this is in and this is out kind of thing. It gives you all some flexibility, which I really appreciate. So I talked with Jess about this, and Jess's response was, man, they've done a lot of work, and this looks really good, and I like what they've done. So Jess said, having eliminated the penitentiary idea and all that stuff, and incarceration idea, and also the telecommunications structure, I assume that's like a TV tower, or
It's gonna be a cell tower.
cell tower.
We pretty much permit those in every zoning district. We really have very little authority. Sorry, my mic's not on. We have very little authority over telecommunication towers. I honestly would recommend not touching that one. As
Well,
far
that's
as
the
your
one he said, I don't see, it's down in a low area, and I don't see that happening. He said, that's fine to do away with that one. So having said that, and having looked at what's available here now, and with the idea that a lot of these parks and open areas, schools, recreational areas and stuff, Jess said, I like what they've done. I'd like to just leave it like this without the telecommunications activities. And so that's what we're asking for, is to reconsider this, having eliminated penitentiaries. And if you want to eliminate telecommunications towers, I'm not sure that you all have the ability to enforce that, even if we give that away.
I don't believe that we do.
So-
Yeah,
So I'm trying to understand how you're right. I went back and looked at Article 5 since the last meeting on here. And those in the ICD category, there's a healthcare facility, there's parks and open areas, there's a religious institution, there's safety services, there's school, utilities, parking, commercial is in that category, recreational and entertainment, greenhouse, retail sales and service are the major categories and some of the subcategories. What I was looking at is because of where this is going to, I was specifically asking if we could include it so it is only a school for that property, put that caveat on the property. Is that what you're saying?
No, that is not
So
what I'm
you're indicating you want to expand it to all the categories that are
Yes,
listed
all
in the
the
paper?
categories.
Okay, say, I still have concerns if it's not a school, anything beyond a school,
Well,
for that property.
Here's the problem. If you say can only be a school, it's only valuable to one entity,
Okay.
the school that sits beside it. Now, Jess donated the land the school's sitting on, free. He gives to them every year, but he's also a businessman. And if you say this can only be used for a school, the value goes to nothing.
Okay.
Who could he sell it to other than
The-
DCA?
the
So
Danville
who's
Christ-
going to push DCA on the price?
Okay,
I
the
mean,
Danville Christian School that's there is a school, correct?
Right.
Is it a religious facility? Is it religious institution also?
It is.
Okay, so those are the two categories. It's not a park. It's not a healthcare facility. It's not associated with basic utilities.
Yeah.
The rest of the property on the three corners that are adjacent to this and all the adjacent properties is agricultural. It is not any of these categories. So if we allow all those categories, you're opening a precedence to say that you can do this on any corner of that property, any future area in that area on that circle, on the roundabout. And that's what I'm saying. It's very specific when we start changing agriculture into that you can put a healthcare facility on the other corner of the circle. And potentially you have this by having it categorized for the property that we're talking about today. The next quadrant on the other side suddenly can be a healthcare facility. That's major change from an agricultural category because you have set a precedent. The flume does not recognize that that was what the intent of the property was. So what I was doing was giving, because the school is there, or the religious institution, either one of those categories, that is there.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bother me.
Somebody have to come and make a request, though, to change that zone to ICD as well in the future then for the other quadrant?
Yes.
And once you have that, you've set a precedence that allows.
I don't think so.
Is that what we're thinking here? Just because we have it?
I don't think so either. I think that this is specifically done for DCA.
Right.
And I don't think that, like, if somebody came to me and said, well, you did it for DCA, I want you to do it for me for this hospital, I would say no. DCA already exists out there.
Oh, I think there's a mix, and I'm not want to speak against my project here, but I think he's somewhat correct on this. When you say, you know, this can be zoned this way, if your future land use map,
It did not include other than agriculture at this point.
now
It has
the
that-
future land use map had low-density residential.
Yeah, the future land use map was
Yeah.
low-density residential.
And there's
We-
and
there's
it's not
several
th-
things.
It's
that
not this list.
But now it's public, so that is something that you could keep in mind, that you did look at public uses, so you might want to look at this list and consider which of those uses would fall into public and
Okay.
say,
And you're right, Director, but what I hear being requested is just the category of whatever ICD is, except for the tower. He wants to be
Yep.
approved in that broad arrangement. My comment is, it needs to be more narrow than that for the
I
property.
also think that I understand why he's doing that, so that, because if he put it only on, if he only did a school on there, then DCA would have less interest in offering what it's worth, okay, then, you know, at least this way, the owner has the option, even though he intends to sell it to DCA, to hold DCA's feet to the fire to give something that's worth what it actually is.
And I'm taking it one step further. The agreement with DCA falls through, he then resells it to somebody who's going to put a healthcare facility on that and therefore buy adjacent property, make it large enough. Are we in the position to allow it to grow in that category? That's what putting you in an ICD category allows it to happen. You and I don't block or stop sales and buys.
I think that that's a risk that we have to look at and accept here for the community, because DCA wants to grow, okay? And given that DCA is going to, has the intent to grow out there, I really think that that's the
See-
risk that I'm gonna be willing to accept.
And see, let me clear it one level deeper. The property that's being sold is a three-piece tract divided by the expressway. I really am only referring to the one piece, which is on the Bergen side. And so it's even more refined.
you can separate those tracks. I mean, you have the ability to make this a split zone tract of land.
That's a
You
good
know, I think
alternative.
with the expressway, it's a natural break in this. So the commission does have the ability to do that. I think Henry was probably just about to say that as well, so.
Thank you. That's my concern, is that one quadrant, not the other two that are attached to the existing project or next to the existing
So
property.
Sam, let me ask you this question. Your intention is to keep all the land around that cul-de-sac as agricultural forever, or for a long time, or for how long?
It opens, what I'm saying is that it was presented here by First Southern doing what they're doing, and the conversations is all around the DCA. That was the intent. If that does not happen, if we approve a general category of ICD, we're also approving for any of these other services to be put in those properties without coming here. You don't have a public hearing. The public doesn't get a right to discuss and listen to whether or not the healthcare facility is being used on here. That wasn't part of our last meeting. You bring it up to this meeting.
No. I did say, we can go back. In the last meeting, I did say, if we just make it for the school, there's no way to get the fair price out of the property. I did say that at the last meeting. We did not, and I hope I didn't insinuate that to anybody, but I never intended at the last meeting to say this will be dedicated to the school only. I knew I didn't have the authority to do that, and I didn't intend to do that. But your future land use map shows the area around this cul-de-sac, or this roundabout, to be low-density residential, which is not just single-family housing, could be duplexes, could be several things. So unless you intend to keep this as agricultural forever, you have to start somewhere with something. And if you start to have low-density residential around there, and if the economic demand makes a clinic profitable there, then somebody might put the clinic in, and if it's profitable, it's because it serves the community that's developed around it, so it sort of makes sense. If we don't, and I think ICD is by far the safest zone to attempt something like that, because you don't have drive-through stuff, you don't have fast food restaurants, you don't have things that create tons of traffic issues, although these will create traffic, no question.
Well,
But-
you could, the Danville Christian Academy didn't use the property for some reason, you could put a church there, and then all at once you'd have however church members coming out at once onto the bypass, and then the next thing you're gonna want's a stoplight for them, isn't it?
Well, I think we're fooling
No,
ourselves.
you can't get a
I think we're
stoplight.
fooling ourselves thinking that area is not gonna be a growth area for Danville. It's gonna develop.
The Flume actually has it listed.
I know.
for,
And it
I
is-
mean,
the
low-density
Flume-
residential,
The
so
flume is not listing is an ICD or commercial.
I get it, but
The Flume eventually will probably. That's our
There-
expansion area.
I don't have any problems with it happening on a
Yeah.
later hearing and a public hearing, nothing at all.
I understand, but I think we're fooling ourselves. If we're gonna grow, and you can't build a bypass anywhere that doesn't grow. That's why you build it, because you grow.
And we have a very specific, I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said. I agree with you. It is gonna grow, there is a bypass there. We have to look at, like, unforeseen does not equal unforeseeable. Okay? So what's foreseeable here is that it's gonna grow, and we have a very, very specific motion here to let it grow in a very specific way on one corner. And I really like how you guys redid that.
So the request, and you were talking about the motion being that it's an ICD category. And so therefore, anything listed beyond that, the ones I listed and
In
read,
that corner,
on
not
that,
the other corners, in that corner.
the,
That's what they're
the
asking
section
for.
that's segmented over to the Bergen side, which
Yeah,
is
if
not
they- if
in direct
that-
contact with the existing
Yeah,
property.
the other two corners, sections, have not been requested to change the flume. Nobody has come through and requested that. They've only requested to change the flume in that one corner.
I
on that
guess-
one little property.
I guess I misunderstood it because the property is one deed for all three parts. Therefore, it applies to all three,
Yes, but
unless
you
we
were talking
separate it.
about- You were specifically talking about the properties on the other side, on the west side, could potentially do that in the future. And I'm saying that's not what they're asking for.
I'm not, you're right, and that should not be brought into this conversation. I'm just worried, the deed that as proposed, the section, which is the third section across the other side of the road on the Bergen side, is the one that I'm concerned about. The properties that are on the other side, that are already connected right next door to the Danville Christian Academy, I don't have any concerns giving a full ICD on that. I'm not concerned over that, but I am concerned about that little segment on the other side.
You're concerned that they'll develop a healthcare facility? Is your,
That they
that's your
could.
only concern?
Any of the categories in the ICD, health facility, the category you
Will they
could put
build a
into
first
it.
aid station over there? Will that be a healthcare facility?
I don't know, is that a first aid?
I don't know.
I would think it'd be.
I would
They've got
qualify that as a, I did just want to mention ICD, so you see single-family detached home and multifamily. So ICD is held to RM3 development, residential development standards. So that is higher than what you would typically see for a low-density residential, which the comp plan was kind of showing. So that is just one point that I want to make.
Thank you. And not the director, the document that is presented here does not reflect all those categories. They're molded in some of these other ones apparently.
That is
Yeah.
your old document. I just
Yeah.
highlighted it so it's easier to read.
No, I have no problems with that.
Yeah, I just
The
pulled
way
them
it's,
out.
way it's listed here is not the same wording that I have on this document.
No,
It's-
no, I
so
tried
that's
to
fine.
do it for ease, just so you would have an understanding
Well,
of what
and
kind
you
of
do have
uses you're
detention
looking at.
facility up there. We definitely can strike detention facility. We have no interest
Yeah,
in doing
yeah.
that. We know,
Well,
doing
actually,
that next to our
actually,
school.
detention facility is not in that category on our chart.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I'm
I didn't
saying.
know, I thought it was gone from there, so
Yeah.
that, we definitely want to strike detention facility. We
So-
do not want that developing next to the school.
Just clarity on that. There's some of those that are not matching one-to-one.
You know, I guess it's our thought that this area is going to develop. I mean, maybe not tomorrow or the next day or the next, but it is going to develop as pressure for land expands. And my thought is, and again, this is me thankful to have a granddaughter who goes to DCA, a daycare facility that people could drop their small child off at daycare and go across the road and drop their children off at school would be awesome because, you know, DCA doesn't run bus routes right now, so everybody traffics their kids to school. So if you had I think a daycare facility across the road would be awesome, and if it was in conjunction with DCA some way, they could help sponsor it or or send some of the seniors over there to do work with the kids would be awesome use for it. So the daycare facility, to me, makes about as much sense as anything on that corner, if DCA doesn't use it for ball fields, because our plan for DCA is to get all those ball fields on that small area. And I've already told them that it's going to be quite expensive because we're gonna have to do retaining walls to get flat enough areas on a sloping 20 acres to get all those ball fields in. We can get them in, but we can't get them in cost effectively, so we thought there might be opportunity to put the baseball field or the baseball softball fields on the other side of the road. You know, something that would eliminate some of the pressure on that side and give them a more cost-effective way to grade the property for those ball fields. Now, that's just my, again, my thoughts conveyed to DCA, so.
The greenhouse and nursery over here is part of a category of retail sales and service. It is not putting a greenhouse on a school or something. That's not the same. This is for resale as a business, standalone business. So even you've got it highlighted in here that that's a good thing to do, and I think that's fine. But this one inside of our document is part of a subcategory of retail sales and service of business.
Again, I just highlighted your
No,
document. I
there's
just
no
tried to make it
problem.
easier to read, because I'd get crossed up on what was going over to a P.
Thank you.
Permitted.
I appreciate your
Yeah.
time. You've done a great job.
Yeah.
We're still in the public part of it, listening to
Right.
comment.
Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Does anybody else wish to speak in favor of it? Favor of the rezone? Okay, does anybody wish to speak in opposition to the zoning? All right. And, oh, you want to speak?
Just want to make, Melanie Thornberry. I was here previously as the attorney for DCA at your last meeting. And just in the interest of full transparency, I do want to reiterate what I had stated the last time, which is that DCA does not have any legal binding agreement with First Southern Funding as to any of the property that First Southern Funding owns in this area, just so that you all have the information that we have.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Is it DCA's intent to expand?
It is, as you knew, or as we discussed
Right.
in the last meeting, this property, the history of it is that it was one tract, DCA's tract, and then this tract that First Southern Funding owns existed as tracts prior to the connector being put in. So when the connector was done, it chopped, for lack of a better term, the piece that First Southern Funding owns. So there are two very oddly shaped little pieces on the same side as DCA. There is the tract that is on the northern side of the connector. DCA, when we were here previously, we were seeking to be able to expand our facility as it exists on that southern side of the connector. There have been informal conversations in which I've not been involved. So I just know that that is some of what has been discussed to my knowledge and my information from the entity I represent. There has not been any discussion about the northern, an expansion onto the northern side. Not to say that wouldn't be a possibility, but my information from my client is that we have had informal discussions about that which lies on the southern side.
Do we know if First Southern's, I guess, there's the properties on both sides of the bypass, the south side and the north side. Are they tied together in this, in First Southern's mind? That is, if we were to deny the zone, the flume change for the, I guess it would be the north side of the property, does that then mean First Southern isn't interested in pursuing the south side?
Good question.
That's a tough question for me to answer. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question, and even though I have an agency letter, that's not something we discussed. The informal discussions were Billy Inman and I were working on the fields and stuff, and I talked to Jess, and he said, sure, I want to help them. But he also said, well, what's the property worth? That's always just the second question to anything is, well, what's it worth, you know, because he is a businessman. So, so they're informal, very informal discussions, but I do feel sure that we're going to get some of this property to the school where they need it, especially that property in the rear that's landlocked, completely landlocked, is valuable to nobody but the school. And most of the northern edge of the property on the south side of the bypass would be of no value because it's too narrow for any kind of construction. So 90% of it has no value to anybody other than the school. So I don't know how to answer that question. It's not something I discuss and not something I'm comfortable feeling. I still think it goes back to, if you assume that this area will develop, having it in an ICD district is much better than some kind of highway commercial type setting or some kind of even light industrial type setting. I think it's one of the safer zones. The other thing about the development is there'll never be entrances on the bypass any closer than they are now. That one entrance into this property is all there'll ever be. I promise you that. It takes a federal senator willing to stick his neck out to break that 1,200-foot spacing on those things. So there will never be more entrances onto the bypass, but
I guess where I'm coming from is if First Southern were to be coming here and only making this proposal for a ICD change for the Bergen side, and wanted us to make the change for that relatively small acreage, and wanted us to agree to, and not committing to what they want to put there. You know, they had no proposal or anything, just want us to make the zone change for that piece of property only, and to allow any of this to be on there. I think we would probably say, you know, we need you to be more specific as to what you're gonna do with this piece of property. This small piece of property on the.
you talking about on the north side of the bypass?
Forget the other side, forget the,
He's talking about splitting, he's talking about rezoning both separately.
yeah, I'm gonna say, it. My point is, if First Southern was clean slate, was just coming here and only wanting to talk about the Bergen side of the bypass property, I don't think we would be open to changing the zoning at all in the flume or whatever without them being more specific because of our concern of traffic and everything as to what are you gonna put there? What you know, what are you gonna put there? And so, you know, I guess my question is, can we split those two things apart?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry, but I can't answer that. I don't know.
And that's right. What you say is what I was trying to get to too. Once I've agreed to ICD, any of those can go in there. Any of them on our list.
Well, I mean, again, it has to be something that's demanded by the community or it's not profitable and it doesn't happen.
Well, I'm just saying if this was a clean slate, if you were walking.
Well, I think
today-
it is. I mean, I thought it was a clean slate.
No, I mean, if you were.
It
only
was for
talking-
me until I heard the counselor say very carefully and very deliberately and appropriately, we need to put on the record that there has been no agreement with the school and discussion about going. That literally changed
I'm sorry
everything
if
for me
I
in that discussion.
insinuated there was an agreement. Billy Inman with the school and I working on these ball field plans. We developed plans utilizing some of this property. It's, the fields are across the property line. They have to be to get them to fit. So, that's informal, very informal.
Would you be open to coming back next month or today seeking a change to splitting that property and allowing us to vote on making that an ICD change on the south side of the property and then leaving the north side of the property zoned as it is today and sitting in the flume as it is today, and then when you guys decide that you want to go up there, if you want to go up there, come back to us and request that change.
That would work very well for me, the way I'm looking at it.
We'll just have to table it. I don't know. We'll just have to table it. till next
Would,
time.
without you being upset at us, would you be open to tabling that and going back and having that discussion? Because I think it's better to be right than first in this case.
I will have to. If that's what you want me to do, that's what I'll have to do. I personally think that the intersection is going to grow, you know.
I agree with you.
That the agricultural use is not going to stand for long, and I feel like the ICD is
If the school is not committed to buying that up there, okay, I'm not committed today to amending the flume for that side of the, for that side of the bypass to move from low-density residential to ICD.
Well,
Well, you mentioned daycare center, the school church could build a daycare center over there too.
Right, but they're not, but we just heard that the school is only interested right now in that part of the property that's adjoining the school. So, man, that property is already naturally split today by an existing highway. Okay? I would be very interested in knowing whether or not the property owner, which is First Southern, would be interested in splitting that property formally so that we could vote on a flume amendment for one side and then the other.
So,
it's a
let
zoning
me ask,
amendment.
ask you guys as a commission this, so if ICD.
Sorry.
If ICD is not the appropriate zone for the north side, what is?
Until the school wants to put something up there, I think the appropriate zone is R1A, what it's sitting at right now.
It's ag right now.
Sorry, ag,
Yeah,
ag.
So ag is the appropriate zone?
yeah.
For
Don't know
today,
what's going there.
until we know what's going there, then yes.
Well, I don't think anybody knows what's going there. We don't have any idea what.
But I
is going
thought
there.
that the school was going there up until a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, we were under the impression, I think, that the school was gonna be acquiring both sides of the.
I'm sorry if I did not mean to say that. When we had to create a conceptual plan, we showed a big parking lot because we know that they need parking across the road.
But the conceptual plan, I thought, was bought into by both the landowner and the school.
Yeah.
And that was my understanding, and now it's, and I'm grateful that that's been cleared up.
Yeah.
Because to a large degree, my willingness to consider changing that zone had to do with the conceptual plan. This was gonna be part of the DCA. If it's basically First Southern coming to us saying, we have two pieces of property here, and we would like to change the zoning on those with no identified specific use or intent on the Bergen side, then I'm real reluctant to do that right now.
I'm also I'm very reluctant to be used as a, please be careful how I'm intending to use this versus how it might sound. I'm very careful to not be used as a tool by a landowner to force somebody else to pay a higher price for something, you know, than they might otherwise pay for it.
And I had, for some reason, when I looked at it and what we were doing, I ignored the conceptual plan. I was simply looking at, now that you say it out loud, it's exactly what I was doing. It's a concept, it could change. It's as strong as a pencil is on a paper. You know,
I mean,
so
that is the definition of conceptual plan.
Yeah.
It's a concept.
Well, you know, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here a minute. Even if the school doesn't buy it, you know, if they're not offered, I mean, or if they did buy it, they could do any of these things.
That's correct.
If he didn't sell it to them, he could do any of these things.
You could sell it to a third party who could do anything with it
Right,
because it's
so
already been done
I
to an
don't,
IC.
I don't know, I'm starting to convince myself
It's too,
changing sides
it's
here.
too, and now we're allowing one of these other
So
categories.
is the issue, we want the school deciding what goes there, or we want Mr. Correll deciding what goes there?
And my perspective is, during the public hearing, and we're hearing this, and we're representing the public in the general perspective
Right.
here, we're trying to understand, because there's no commercial gas station on any corner over there on that loop.
Mr. Griffin,
There's
if
no
I could just interject real quick, I'm not sure how appropriate it is for us to consider who's the correct party to be deciding this. I think that all our decisions about what should be happening with the land should be couched in terms of the comprehensive plan, and that's how we should, and this is not me trying to preach or anything here, but what we're doing should be couched in the comprehensive plan and maybe a little bit less in the transactions that are getting so
Yeah,
much discussion this morning.
I apologize, the use of the term was the wrong term, but the comprehensive plan and the flume activities are guiding us, and they don't have anything beyond what the residential categories that we had on here. That's what's there. It's not these other categories. We don't, how do we know we should go that direction in the property?
So you're saying we shouldn't change anything on any of those properties? That's what you.
I have been
I'm saying that
persuaded by this.
if we do change it, it should be because we're looking at the land use goals and objectives
Sure.
or the economic development ones, and not so much thinking about, are we going to help DCA get this property, or are we going to help the seller get a better price? Yeah.
And we have historically, the adjacent property to a particular zoning category, often considered to move it and expand it. And my feeling is that's that corner of that south corner properties, not the
And
one
I
across the
don't
other road.
see-
That's my feeling.
I don't understand why expanding that zone to the next property north, as long as they handle traffic properly and they develop it properly, which you all do have the control over when they come back with the development plan. I don't understand why that's a bad thing.
And mine was an extension beyond the categories on here, is what I had. I'm back still to that subcategories, whether it's one of the ones. And you've mentioned during your conversations, or at least I heard it, daycare, religious, school, being the general things is what we're looking at. And that's I'm perfectly comfortable with on the south side.
Senator, you say we shouldn't even consider what's on these? We shouldn't even consider this?
I think we absolutely should. I just think that when we're thinking about those and maybe trying to narrow down those uses, it should be in terms of the comprehensive plan and not in terms of what's going to help the transaction along.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that.
And right now,
Could
the
we
comprehensive
let
plan
Ms.
reads that the flume, we changed the future land use map to public.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we would
That's
be
already
looking
done.
at public type of uses. DCA came in, they already had their flume as public, and so we looked at ICD as being appropriate because it was a school use. So you would be looking at public uses for
Right.
this zoning. You know, if you were to rezone, you'd be wanting to look at public uses for that.
Would you be willing to yield to Ms. Thornberry for a minute?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see her.
I'm too short. I just want to be clear that DCA and I, we are not here to speak against nor in favor. I mean, I think Mr. Gooch has made some excellent points. I just simply, by hearing the conversation, wanted to make sure that the commission had the information that I knew. And so ethically, I could not sit and not reiterate what I said in a prior hearing, which is that there is no formal agreement. But that does not mean I am speaking against. As I said, I think Mr. Gooch has some excellent points in that an ICD zone in this area is, at this point in time of the development out that way, a better use and a more limiting use for that vicinity than a highway, commercial, or industrial or other thing would be. And I think Mr. Smith's point was very well taken as to the holistic view your commission approaches these with. So just wanted to offer that clarity.
Henry, is it appropriate or inappropriate for us to ask the First Southern, the landowner, for us to table this and ask them to consider splitting that property formally, okay? So that we address that we address the requested zone change on the south side, and then in the future, if they wish to go forward, then we readdress it with respect to the comprehensive plan. What do you think about that idea?
I think that addresses the specific planning concerns that are getting voiced today about, you know, where zones begin and end, and what was the intent of the comprehensive plan. So in short, yes, I think it's appropriate.
Because when that property is legally a single property, but there was not a there was not a natural divider across that, but today there is, so we can't pretend that it's not there. And I would feel really good about breaking that apart, or at least, no, I cannot break that apart. We cannot break that apart. I would respectfully ask the owner of that property to consider subdividing that so that we could then vote on the zone change for the property that's adjacent to what they really presented to us.
By your statement, we could come back in the future for the property on the north side. Do I understand it? You all decided to turn down the north side?
We're asking to consider it as two separate pieces. We haven't voted.
Now, the only reason you would do that is so you can turn down the north side.
So we have the option of talking about the two separate pieces.
And also, we can ask for more restrictions on the north side, like a conceptual plan of what you're gonna put there.
Well, I mean, I don't think we have any idea of what we're gonna put there. We can create some conceptions of what could go there, but until somebody figures out what the demand is and what the public needs out there, the public will use, which makes it profitable, which helps you pay for the construction cost. I don't think anybody has any idea what can go there. Again, I go back to, you've got this land around the cul-de-sac. Obviously, you don't want tons of highway commercial traffic, but it's going to become something, and, you know, low-density housing can still be fairly dense with sanitary sewer available. And so you can generate a lot of traffic with low-density housing. I don't know what to tell my client is the appropriate zone if this ICD, is that right? ICD is not the correct zone, so we'll have to table it. I'll have to wait to.
I'm not saying that it won't be the correct zone. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I would love for that to become ICD, connected to DCA per your conceptual plan. When DCA comes on board and says, yeah, that's what we really want to do. Otherwise, until that time, like if you're telling us today we have to vote on, because it's a single property, we have to vote on it. We can't, do we have the authority to vote on?
It's all or none.
It's
right
all
now.
or none today, or do we
The
have the
zoning request
authority?
was listed that way.
I'm not so sure. I think that you can apply conditions that are commensurate with the burden of the requested change. And I think when you have that in mind, you could say the south side of the road has broader leeway in terms of enumerated uses that they can use, while the north side has fewer uses. I think you can split it up in the way that you make a motion to approve and say the south side has free reign within the ICD. The north side is also going to be zoned ICD, but they're confined just to educational, religious. That's an example of a motion. I think the issue that we get into is you don't want to make a motion that the applicant is uninterested in, pursuing to the next level. So if they're just going to appeal it or ask for the city commission to change it, then it's been a pointless motion. So, Mr. Gooch, would your client buy into having fewer restrictions on the south side, but a few more on that north side parcel? Or do you need time to?
Well, I mean, I kind of have to know what the restrictions they're requesting are, and I'd have to go back and talk with them, so I think we'll have to table it. I don't think I have the authority to split it. I mean, obviously, they're splitting it because they're gonna turn the north down. If not, there would be no reason to split it.
Right, well.
No.
I don't agree with that at all.
No.
That's not an automatic rejection.
No,
It is not an automatic, but it is a clarification. We need more information than we satisfy, because I'm still concerned about categories.
not at all.
Are you all gonna provide us with a list of concerns, I guess?
The use categories,
Huh?
this list of use categories.
But that's your all document. That's what you all spent years creating to say this is what you can do in ICD. I don't know what to do if that doesn't suit you and you all created it.
Then you
I
can't-
don't know what to do, is what I'm saying to you, I guess.
I was prepared to say ICD with all these use categories, given the conceptual plan, and given the parking lot, potential ball fields on the north connected to DCA until I heard that there was no agreement to do so.
Yes. I thought that I was pretty clear that we couldn't commit to the school only on that north side because that was gonna drive the price down low. I'm pretty sure I said that in the last meeting, and I
I'm not sure
apologize.
what's objectionable, other than we don't know what he wants to do. We'd like to have some kind of, like Jim said, some kind of, this is my plan.
Well, again, there is no plan right now. You all have set a list of things that are allowable in ICD, and it seemed like those,
But you presented something to us, and now you're saying that there's no plan, and you're willing to go to whatever's in ICD, and I think that there's a discontinuity there.
you all require a concept, so
I know.
I created a concept. This is one of the concepts. I could create, I think it was a larger building on the, next to the road, that could be a sports training facility, could be a clinic. I mean, it was just a large building out there that you would get to from the one entrance, and then a large parking lot. I feel like that's a pretty good use for the property, but that's just a concept. Again, I don't have any idea what might be out there yet, and I don't think anybody does.
On that side of the road, but you certainly do on the south side.
Oh, yes, I have,
And that's why I said.
I hope to have great plans for that. I really,
That's why I said.
I'm
that
happy about that.
I think we're really comfortable if you were to bring us the split, considering them separately. I think we're probably all comfortable with the south side of the road.
and that's, I mean, that's kind of what I said. We're splitting them because you want to approve one and not the other.
Well, we would have approved both today had we thought that there was some kind of an agreement to move forward on the north side.
I'm sorry if I didn't mean to present that to you at the last meeting. I didn't.
Well, as I recall, more than one of the folks who were testifying in favor of this at the public hearing, from the general public, were speaking from the viewpoint of supporting DCA expanding. I mean, I think they thought too, that what we were talking
That's-
about here was that
That's
was gonna
exactly
be
what the
DCA
public thought.
That was gonna be DCA property.
That's what the public thought,
And I think
how
we-
that was
I'm wrong. I'm
presented.
just saying, I guess we were all under that impression.
It's very important that we understand that that's not what, if you're making an ICD category, it can go anywhere in those approved categories, anywhere.
Again, that's the document you all created
Yeah.
after years of consideration and work
And-
and public hearings and whatever you do to create your conceptual or your
My-
5-year plan. That's what you all
My,
created.
my comment is that north side, in my opinion, look, when I read the comprehensive plan, was never intended for it to be an ICD. I never had that as part of the vision, but because the other two are adjacent to, it's one of those things that, yeah, sounds, but the dividing of the highway suddenly divides it in my mind.
Would it be a way out of this discussion for the commission to provide Mr. Gooch with a list of uses that cause the most concern? In other words, say, can you also strike XYZ use? Would that,
I
I
would,
don't think there's any bother me, I think there isn't.
okay. Mr. Collier, is it more in terms of having
I-
the zone at all, or are there specific
I had a concern
uses?
over the ICD categories. Are we referring to what would be on any of those three property tracts?
I think that we can speak of the
Just the
northern
south
tract
side?
as a separate
Okay, on the
matter.
south, on the south track, I did not have a concern category.
Okay.
I'm concerned with the north track because around it is agricultural style. There's nothing on that area. There's nothing developed yet, and that was not part of our
Nothing
future,
should be
the
developed there,
zoning
it should
category.
be grass growing all the time.
We agreed that according to the future look at that area, that it's going to be residential categories, I believe is what's in the flume today. An ICD was not part of that.
It's the public,
Yeah.
it's,
When it's updated, it can
flume's gonna be
give us the
updated.
information for
We-
the direction of that.
yeah, we changed that last month. It's public now on the north side.
That area
All
is
three
public.
tracks
That's
got
right.
changed, yeah.
I would love it
And
if
may-
we
and
could
don't,
approve this on the south side. The fact that there is a highway is a fact, and it divides it. And so I would love to be able to approve this ICD on the south side, and then come back to us and request an ICD in the future
okay? Not to outright deny it, but to come back and ask us in the future, because this was presented as,
I'll go back to Henry's question. Which one of these things do we object to?
It is interesting, if you go through your list here of public categories, difference between a public and ICD is detention facility is in public and it is not an ICD. It
That's
does
what I
not
thought,
allow,
too. I'm glad-
a public
I'm
does
glad
not
that's-
technically allow religious facility.
Yeah.
And then if you go to the second page, there's several down in there. Actually, there isn't, that's about it.
Yeah, and the public zoning district is separate than what the public flume designation is.
Exactly.
It's not hand in hand.
That's correct.
I mean, if you read through the comp plan, it kind of talks about schools, parks, police, fire stations, government offices, schools and colleges, things like that, so more public,
So-
government type
I'll
uses,
twist the question
services.
back around. Doesn't the public category already meet what's needed?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the intent, but
So-
I just wanted to be clear that they are two separate.
Yeah, they are, but I'm just asking
designations,
the
yeah.
question here. What I've heard in the conversations categories, we approved public already for this particular tract of land, all three of these locations in that category of tracts of lands from last time, correct?
Not the zoning, just the future land
Just
use,
the future
right?
land use map.
So,
Because it's currently zoned ag, so all
That
that's
is correct.
allowed on it currently is agricultural type uses.
and in the ag category, you have parks and open areas, religious. You've got quite a bit that you can put in there. You can either through a permitted use or conditional use. I'm just questioning, is there a reason to go other than the ag zone that's now? It's already there.
I mean, I think that's the question that the commission is answering, whether they want to go from ag to ICD or leave it as is,
Yeah, but if
as
you-
agricultural.
the
Even
healthcare-
changing the flume
You
designation
see,
does
and
not
it
require
addresses
you
some of the things I was doing. The public ag category does not allow for a healthcare facility. I didn't want one there. So, I mean,
And for religious institutions, it requires conditional permits.
yeah,
So,
we could give a conditional permit.
good,
Yeah,
don't have to.
yeah.
I go back to, again, ICD seems to me like in a public use kind of area, whether it's against the school or near the school or whatever, an area around the school where you don't want, things that are gonna be a danger to the children. It seems like the ICD has the least heartburn of all the zones we could ask for. And it seemed like it was the best fit, and you all still really haven't said what's really wrong with the ICD. Except I sort of misled you with the conceptual plan, and I can see that, I can see that. But it was what we were talking about, Billy and I were talking about what we could do over there, and that's how the conceptual plan came about, is because it was what I wore that mic out. It was what I was thinking about when we had to create a conceptual plan, because your all's requirement is a conceptual plan.
If you leave it in ag, some of the craft breweries and things down about the third page deep, you're not going to want to have a craft brewery on that.
Right,
I don't know, man.
roundabout.
Do we have anything more to add as a public hearing? No?
We can do our own conversations afterwards. That is
Right,
right,
I
Jim.
mean, we need to close the
Is there any
public
other
hearing, I think,
speakers?
on this and go into regular session to decide what to do about it. So I'll ask one more time, is there anybody else that wants to speak for or against it? Okay. Thanks, your.
I apologize. This may have nothing to do with, it's not for or against anything, just from a general perspective. You'd mentioned about maybe them going to the owner to separate the two things. I was just going to throw out there, I don't know the situation, but if it's a connector that goes between, that splits it, it may have been bought in fee. If they came through and bought that whoever, the state or whoever built that road, if they bought that, it is naturally divided into two separate parcels. The client, they wouldn't have to get a subdivision to do it. It would already be subdivided by a result of it being bought in fee. So it may already be two separate parcels, so it's just trying to.
It's actually three, and we show that on the plan.
Okay, so it may not be anything there. I just wanted to throw it there.
Thank you.
Because you were talking, it doesn't make sense to have them separated if it's already in the pieces. That's all I would add.
Makes it even easier.
So, do we want to continue the public hearing and hear the other parts that will be heard as a public hearing, or go back into regular session to do something about this?
I have one question, Henry. The discussion they have and the issues they might develop with ICD, if they do it out of the public hearing, is that part of the record? Does that still stay part of the record?
Yes, what goes to the city commission is all the discussion that's had today.
All of
So,
it? After closing the public hearing? it
Closing
still goes-
public hearing is just, taking last call for comments. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm good with closing the public hearing.
Yeah, our meetings are public.
Yeah, that's why the minutes are so long.
Okay. So does somebody have a recommendation for me about whether they want to go out of public hearing and discuss this, or go on with the other items on the public hearing agenda and then go back to all of them one by one?
I would prefer to close or settle this one way or the other.
Okay, then do we have a motion to?
I make a move, we go out of the public hearing into a
Okay,
close.
we have a second? All in favor? All right. Okay, then we're out of public hearing, and so do we have somebody that wants to speak about this?
The whole intent is a zoning amendment for this property.
Right.
That's really what we have. And as I understand it, we have an agricultural zoning now, and the request is to go to ICD on all the tracks, on all the partials.
All three
parcels.
tracks.
All three parcels or tracks, whichever term. We can divide our words any way we want to do it, from my understanding. We can say that the south tracks are fine, we're on ICD, and we can assign the north track as, no, it's
We don't
not
have
fine.
to assign any, to anything.
I would ask, why is the south tracks okay? Why are they okay? We say they're okay, so I might say, why?
My opinion is that they're adjacent to the property, and I do believe that it will therefore be that. You're right, it may not.
They could do whatever they want with it.
Absolutely. This is the whole point. That's my comments.
And not even they. Jeff Correll can do whatever he wants
Correct.
with
That's
it.
exactly right.
Once you have that category assigned,
I don't know,
Right.
to me, if there's any difference. I mean, there's nothing I object to on here for that area.
All three of them?
Well, in any of the properties, yeah. They want to put a healthcare facility, a first aid station on one of the lots. They want to put a daycare center. It's affiliated with the church, the school. I don't know I'm trying to find what the issue is. I really am.
you're going to have the ability to do retail sales nursery. This category here, it's permitted.
It's permitted.
Greenhouse and nursery is permitted in that retail sales and service. It's on the second page.
It's about permitted use only.
Mhm.
We don't have to permit that.
Well, and that's my point. We can use and say that it's not permitted. And of course, the telecommunications, we can't guide that one way or the other. If we were to put that, just put that concern on there, you could end up with an office putting it in there, of course, or commercial parking. That's the other one that's in there, under an ICD, just general, which is not, in my opinion, what we wanted to have there, happen there. A semi-drop truck, commercial parking or a parking garage,
Commuter parking
or
lot.
commuter parking lot. It's not intent, that's not what we had in mind in those categories. So my general feeling, like what you said here, any of them on this column that have the the asterisk, which are optional type of categories, we can clarify that. I didn't know how far down these things were intended. If you do anything with the property on the south side, it doesn't mean it's part of the adjacent property. It's just an ICD. We're never really gonna get to the point of knowing
Yeah, yeah.
what it's ultimately used.
Right.
That's not a problem. That's a different, if you're doing a building.
My only concern just, it came up unexpectedly and very, very quickly this morning,
Yes.
was that, to me, there was an appearance that the landowner was, gotta be very careful, but there's an appearance to me that the landowner was using the P and Z process to get a higher value for the property from DCA, okay? And whether or not that was the intent, that is what it seems like to me this morning, which is why I'm not comfortable with doing, like, I don't like using my vote for that. I'd be very, very happy to approve that zone change on the south side, okay, but not the north side. And not because I don't think that those things are appropriate to do up there, but because I don't think that request at this time is appropriate. Does that make sense? So like if the school comes back and says, yeah, we really do want to buy that, and they sell it to the school, and then they come back and say, hey, we want an ICD for that, then I think that's a totally appropriate thing for us to do. But, and not because I don't think ICD activities are appropriate up there. I think that as it was presented to us, okay, this is a pressure move by the owner, you know, because he's really not going to be able to do anything with that on the south side, and he's using that tie together. This is what it seems like to me, okay? That's why, that's my, this would be like a concurring, like a separate opinion if I'm not on the court. But that would be my,
So we've talked and talked. Does anybody have a motion they're willing to make?
yeah, I'll move, Mr. Chair, I'll move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the zone change on the south side of the highway to ICD, but not approve the zone change at this time, not forever, but just at this time on the north side of the highway.
Can I ask for a clarification on that? The ones with an asterisk in the list, specific use standards apply? Are you including all the categories that are permitted use, including those with the asterisk? Because then you're agreeing to group living, fraternity, sorority. You're agreeing to a daycare. We're agreeing to a basics utilities. We're agreeing to a passive outdoor.
Yes,
A
and here's why.
greenhouse.
Because we already have a category within that, and I don't want to set a precedent for us to each time within a category say that we shouldn't have put this in the category way back when. It's in the category. I don't see that Center's gonna build a fraternity house out there, okay?
Okay.
So I think that those things are within the categories for a reason. And I'm just not comfortable for every time we go in there to say that the things that we think are okay within that category shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that it was clear on that again, so.
So that's my,
You're-
as I'm putting the motion forward, I'm not putting any restriction on that.
Okay.
I say that we approve ICD on the 2 tracks on the south side, and at this time, deny the zone change request on the north side.
And thank you for the clarification, because I love the simplicity of what you said.
I would second that.
Do you have any problems with that motion?
I think that it should have the addition that the zone change on the south side of the road is consistent with the comprehensive plan and specifically with the future land use map. And that withholding ICD zoning from the land on the north side is consistent with the land use objective number 4, to limit adverse impact of commercial and industrial development on residential areas through zoning, landscaping, and adequate roads. I think that's how, that would be a way to articulate a concern that's been expressed.
So you that made the motion agree to that, and the second you agree to it? Okay, we have a motion with a second, so let's vote on it. All in favor of the zone change on the south side, but not the north side, hold your hand up. All right.
That does not preclude them from coming back and asking for that zone change on the north side in the future. We have not permanently denied that.
This is not a permit. They can come back to this open meeting and here you can ask for that. That's correct.
Can I ask a question, please? Henry, can they split that apart without our approval of splitting it apart?
This is a recommending body. They can make whatever recommendation. Now, in doing so, as we've talked about, you have to consider the applicant's wishes and whether you're making a recommendation that ultimately the applicant themselves is going to fight against. So it's kind of a practical question. They can certainly recommend it, and your client is certainly entitled to push against it or fight it later on. And
So this is
Are
a
you-
recommendation.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Would you like to push against it at this time? Or just let it go?
I don't have the authority not to push against it, but,
Okay.
but what can I do? I mean, you
I
know,
would recommend that next time you bring your client with you. It's awful hard every time we ask for a condition for you to say, well, I don't have the authority to do that, but you're asking for a zone change.
I have, I think, authority for a lot of things, but splitting this apart was never, ever discussed, and I think that my client's against that. I'll just be honest with you, I think he's against that. I was going to go back and ask him for sure, but
We can delay
I'm
this.
99% sure he's against it.
We can delay this and change it.
I don't think that we should. First of all, we just voted on it.
Yeah.
And second of all, it was presented to us and we're the
Okay.
commission.
Okay.
All right, so the motion carried. Let's move on to the next zone change, which is Charles Scott Denham.
Is that postponed?
They asked to be postponed until February.
Oh, I'm sorry, right.
It would be good to have a
So we
motion to
need
do so.
have a motion to table it, right?
Please.
Okay, do we have a motion to table the next one, Charles Scott Denham?
I make a motion to table that Charles Scott Denham.
Okay, we have a second.
A second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Next zone change, application is Oakview Commons Mobile Home Community. Do we have anybody that would like to present or speak in favor of it? Yes, sir. Please, identify your name and address when you come to the podium.
My name's Tony Greco. I'm the maintenance and facilities manager. Our district manager was sick. She called me last night, so I drove from Kalamazoo, Michigan yesterday.
Sorry.
That's all right. She lives right in Tennessee. She's about 3 hours away.
We got too many conversations.
Sure.
We'll pause.
Oh, that's fine.
You gotta,
No, just
You
stay
went through
there.
the
This
snow,
will
though, didn't
end
you?
pretty quick.
I got here in the afternoon. I think I just missed it. I didn't miss those big accidents they had around Louisville.
that's what I was thinking. It's like, I was wondering about
Two
that.
hours in traffic.
Oh, my gosh.
We ready?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's fine. We purchased Oakview Commons. It's Lasso Capital Property Management. About 3 months ago, I think we closed. I've only been with the company about 3 months. I've worked for a big Yes Communities for 15 years, but we fired our due diligence company, when I started to try to do infill and found out that it wasn't zoned properly. So apparently what had happened is the gentleman that originally started the community never zoned it, mobile home community. He just threw a bunch of homes in it. And he was fined, from what I understand, I talked to Jim Douglas, he was fined at one time, and before he could pay the fines, he died. So what we would like to do is zone it properly, bring the community up to standards. All I've done so far, because we can't do any housing right now, is we've already spent about $36,000 in taking out dead trees and trimming up trees. I've got approved to put about $900,000 in it this year. We want to have it zone mobile homes, because right now, I can't put any manufactured homes in it unless they directly replace what is there. And the homes that are there from the 70s are like 50-foot long. I've already got 6 of them marked that we own that we're going to demolish as soon as we find out what's going on here. We're going to go in, infrastructure. We just bought 5 parks in Kentucky. We've got 2 in Campbellsville I'm working on right now. But what we do is we buy neglected parks that basically were run by slumlords, and we bring them up to the standards. We don't want trailer parks. We want manufactured home communities. So on this particular park, we've done a lot of checking. I guess probably 30% of the residents shouldn't even be in there. They didn't do background checks. We're going to have to start working with municipalities. I'm pretty sure they're selling drugs out of a couple of the homes. So basically, if we go through and we get it rezoned, we're going to put 6 new homes in this year. And then as the old ones come out, we'll put brand-new homes in. We'd like to put, the largest we can get are 16 by 76, or about 1,200 square foot. We put full drywall homes. They don't look like trailers anymore. We just want to bring the whole community up to standards. We're also looking at property around the area. Most of the homes, you've probably seen the entrance are.
It's terrible.
Yeah, we would like to find out who owns on the beginning of the York Lane there.
I'm a bit confused on this.
Mhm.
I missed something probably somewhere. And I thought the city passed a new ordinance, there would be no more mobile homes coming into the city now.
Well, and that's why the only way we can go forward is to have it rezoned as a mobile home community, mobile home park. It's been, I guess we had permission to operate it as it's been operated, as long as we didn't bring anything in.
Okay. Will there be a caretaker living on?
We have a supervisor that lives in Campbellville. We're still looking for someone in the park where Ron doesn't have to run. It's an hour drive. We'd like to find someone that lives there actually to do the mowing and stuff. But we've already got a hold of the electric company. We put all new street lights in, LED street lights. And if it is rezoned, on most of the dealings I've had with rezoning, they're city streets now. They usually turn the streets over to us as private streets, so we have to maintain them. We've got about $35,000 set aside just to start redoing the streets.
Okay, the ones that are dilapidated and
If we can't,
are you gonna move those?
no, we're gonna crush them and put them in a dumpster. We have no use for those.
Are you planning on meeting with the Junction City Council members and talking this over with them?
Well, that's why I called Jim, and he said that I had to put in for rezoning
Okay.
here.
Yeah, Mayor Douglas and I did talk about this property several months ago. And it will have to go through city commission. It basically comes here for the recommendation,
Yeah.
and then it will go through Junction City.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Yeah, we
I'm
just,
sure,
I mean, as it sits now, it's basically a blight. Oh, you've been there. And, yeah.
I've seen it too.
And the guys that work for, they're younger, they're like 35. I've been doing this about 35 years.
Background checks, I'm all for.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
but,
been- Our police is down there all the time.
I know, and my maintenance man has been there, cleaning up the area, and he's seen like 20 cars come into the same house within a half hour. You know, it's just ridiculous. And we run into this a lot. You get these people that, like I say, they're just collecting
Well,
money.
They can't afford maybe.
Well, they don't
Traditional
maintain the
housing right now,
communities.
right.
They just collect the rent. They don't care who's living there. They don't do background checks. And that's what we change.
I'm sure, the city will work with you.
And that's.
Because you're gonna clean it up, so.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I just can't move forward with anything. I've already got houses that I can order, they can be ready in a month or
So
so.
what are you asking for today?
We just want to change it over from, what is it, R2 and
It's
R1 now?
RM2 and R1A right now. I
Yeah.
can give you a little bit of background. So the Flume is showing this as low-density residential. I recommended that they didn't go through the Flume amendment hearing because I feel that the current zoning is not appropriate. This did go through zone changes back in the 70s to build this manufactured home park. It went through planning commission. Plats have been approved by planning commission. Pretty much through this whole process, this has gone through planning commission. I put photos up there. It's been pretty much the same. This was the oldest photo I could get on Google Earth, but it's been there for a long, long time. It's clearly just the current zoning is not appropriate. So I think when you look at KRS and what findings you can look at for a zoning map amendment, one of them is that you can say the current zoning is not appropriate and the proposed zoning is appropriate. And I think in this case, that's exactly what you're looking at. So you're really not looking at agreement with the comprehensive plan. You're saying that the current zoning of RM2 and R1A, which does not allow for a manufactured home park, is not appropriate. This is what it's been. It was rezoned by the planning commission to do this. It's been platted and approved to be a manufactured home park in this area. So I think what they're proposing for this zoning district would be the appropriate zone. And it allows him to clean up the community.
And the region we're talking about, the borderline, you're not expanding it into another major
No,
area.
it's
We're not
just the
changing
12
any,
acres.
any of the boundaries.
Yeah,
All we're
it's-
gonna do,
it's
and
what it was
we're not
back
gonna
then,
add any
it's now.
homes.
That's
There,
what I
there
was-
is a little bit of empty land there. We could add maybe 5, you know. I wanna leave some for amenities. There's no playground there. There's no swing
What-
sets.
What I was getting to is our paperwork reflects this same odd shape back then as it is. And that's what I,
It was originally planned to be a little bit larger, so they were showing it as having a loop road. It
Yeah.
obviously never developed in that fashion, but.
we're not
that
asking,
land has since been sold off.
I was gonna
They're
say, that's not
asking
part
for
of being
that.
asked in here, so, okay.
I think the only thing I put in there, we would like to do the setback, the front setback is still set for a residential home. And most of the mobile home communities are 25 foot from the road strictly for the reason that the single wides are long. And I don't want to limit the square footage. I want to put at least 1,200 square foot homes in there. We don't want people living in homes that are, you know,
I don't remember what the setback is on the manufactured
it's,
home.
I think
I'd
it's,
have to go look.
yeah. It was like 45 that was what it's at now, which we would have for residential.
Front setback is 20 foot, and then unit separation would be 15 foot between.
And we have big lots there. We'd have more than that between them, but,
You're okay with the 20-foot?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
This was platted out to be
Yeah.
slightly over 5,000 square foot plots per structure there, which is what we require 5,000
Yeah,
square feet.
so-
So I think they.
And eventually,
not-
as the old homes, because we don't own all the homes.
yeah.
I mean, we have, the ones that we own, they're not even worth fixing. They're full of mold, and I don't even want the kids playing around them. We're putting them in a dumpster. As the people either buy our new homes and sell theirs, or we'll buy them, we'll eliminate them. Eventually, we'll just be putting new homes after, and get rid of everything, I call them the old tin cans.
So I can anticipate that the manufactured homes, the new ones will be in the same location.
Exact same
The hardware
pads,
will be gone,
yep.
of course, it'll be improved.
They just will be, because a lot of the old houses, they didn't have big homes back then. They had like 40-foot
Exactly.
by 12s. And will still have plenty of room with setbacks to put a 16 by 76.
Yeah.
Yeah, manufactured home standards have.
Oh, they're,
Well,
yeah.
they're really,
drastically since
yeah.
I have people walk, we just put 14 in the Green River Commons, and some of the people lived in it, and they walk in and kind of take a look, and they're like, wow.
Right. I love where you're going. I like the idea of what you're doing on here.
We just want to do it all legal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the person that put the park in didn't, and I would like to make sure everything's put in like it should be put
My
in.
feeling is that, and we do paperwork changes with different standards and things fall in the holes. This is one that.
Well,
fell
we've
in
had
the
to
hole.
upgrade the homes we put in Campbellville. I mean, even though it's mobile home park, what was
Yeah.
allowed in the 70s and 80s, they upgrade it, and we have to
Correct.
put in the new homes according to that.
That's correct.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
The residents that are already there, living there, that won't be moved. they will
No,
stay
actually,
there.
Actually, we, in this particular park, I've got $35,000 put in budget to upgrade their homes. We don't even own
Are they
them.
gonna be held to any restrictions or?
The only restrictions we hold them to is they have to keep the outside of their house cleaned up.
Clean, okay.
We don't have anything to say about the inside and the number of pets. We don't want people raising having 6 pit bulls run around. We do have,
Well, goats, we got goats.
no, we don't have any goats. We have a restricted, because of our insurance, we do have a restricted list of dogs. I mean, there's no pit bulls. I mean, there's like 7 dogs on there. Basically, as long as they keep their yard picked up and they don't have, foil covered inside their windows, we're good with them. And we help them. Like I say, we just, and I actually asked the owner, because the company I worked for before didn't do that. I said, why are we paying to have houses fixed up that we don't own? He says, I want to put the money out first while we have it in CapEx to bring the whole community up. And that way, it gives them a sense of pride. And once you fix their skirting or re-roof their house or power wash, their home, it gives them a new level to start from. They don't feel like they're buried in this mess, which I was impressed by. I haven't worked for a company that's ever done that. But, I mean, that's pretty much all we want to do. Like I say, there's not room for really any expansion here. It's going to be just mostly clean up, bring everything up to today's standards, new roads. Like I say, I know right now that the city is in charge of the roads. Yeah, I called down. They're still in the city's name, but, because they were going to come out and fix them. And I said, well, wait till rezoning, because usually in a rezoning, they'll turn the roads over to us as part of the mobile home community, and then we're responsible for repaving. Don't tell my boss I said that, because I got to pull another
Did the
100.
mayor tell you that?
Huh?
Did the mayor tell you that?
That the city roads were,
Out there with city roads?
yeah, because I asked him about the potholes. I sent one of my guys out to fill them because someone was going to lose their front tire in it.
There's some poor lady calls all the time and says she has a big pothole, and I've heard the city clerk say, well, that's not our responsibility. And I thought, no, wait a minute here. I'm
Except for it
confused.
is.
Well, because it was zoned, I think residential, it's just like a subdivision. It would be, either the county or the city.
Yeah, it's probably not.
Because all of our private communities, we're responsible
We're
for the
gonna
roads.
have a discussion when I get home. Okay.
He told me about, yeah.
I think that would be a decision for Junction City Commission. That's not something we would deal with, so.
Okay.
Is that all you have?
That's what we're asking. We just want to be, so
Is
I
that
got to
true?
spend their money before we lose it. We get CapEx money for a year, so I told them I could spend all the money they can give me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak in favor of the zone change? Anybody wish to speak against it? All right, then, do we have a motion to go out of public hearing?
I'll make a motion to go out of public hearing.
Have a second?
So the only thing,
Steve,
All in favor, hold up your hand. Motion carries.
so the only question we have is to whether to change it to a manufactured home park category. Rezoning. That's really all we're doing, right?
and that's what they've asked for, right? Okay.
Please,
And should you be inclined to make a motion to approve that, your Director Gary has provided the motion at the bottom of staff report, page 3, under the map. You could incorporate that text.
I think this is Rita's to do.
You got that?
It's on page 4.
Starting with number 1, it's not
you go.
outlined as a motion, but where it says the original zoning classification is inappropriate, there's,
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble with the formatting on this Word
You were
document
having
to get
fun
the
with it, weren't you?
outline, so. I was hoping, thank you, Henry, for pointing out where it is.
What do you want, this motion or let somebody else?
I'll make a motion to we change, so they can clean it up.
Okay, per Michaelia's recommended
Per
motion.
Michaelia's recommendation.
Okay. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, hold up your hand. Motion carries unanimously. right, any new business?
So I don't have an advisory budget or a personnel committee report for this month. We probably will have some either in February or March, hoping to meet with the budget committee soon. For other new business refunds, so I was gonna hope to not have to bring another refund to you guys soon, but we had a gentleman that came in and applied for a zoning map amendment out on Beltsdale Road, and we had quite a few meetings about it. There's actually no sewer out there, so he had applied assuming that he could go through this zone change process, but he doesn't meet the industrial standards, so that project is probably not gonna come through at all. Either way, he's withdrawn his application, and I had already cashed his check, so I am asking for a refund for that $545 for Zach Lee, if the commission would be willing to approve that.
Do you want a motion for approval?
Yes, I need a motion.
Do we have a
for that.
motion approving the refund?
So moved.
So moved, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
You have some announcements?
Yep, so you should have the financial disclosures in your packet. I know you guys did them somewhat recently, but we're in a new year, so we need new
Is that-
financial disclosures.
Does that need to be notarized?
I do believe they need to be notarized,
They do.
right? The financial disclosures?
Yes.
Yes, they'll need to be notarized.
I am.
She is for now. I don't know
Until the
when it runs out.
23rd,
Yep,
23rd
so
of February.
she
I gotta
she
hurry.
may or may not re-up, so try and get it in before February 23rd. And that's
If-
when it's,
If you run out of lease and you're not around, the judge exec office has one, you can go there with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
okay, great.
Just
I
tell
turned
them.
mine in to the judge executive's office, and she notarized it right there.
Yeah. so
Okay,
They'll
yep,
do
so
it
you
over there
can-
for the same, but it
You
is
can
funny.
do that, or you can turn it into Lisa. I think
Actually, I
they're,
was supposed to have a copy. We're
She-
supposed to have a copy on file, so.
okay, so,
At
yeah,
least bring us a copy if you do take it to them, please.
yep. And I think they're doing March sometime, but I'm just gonna say, try and get them in within the next month. That way, I don't know what, that the Ethics Commission might
I-
start looking at penalties and
I
whatnot, so.
assume I'll have my taxes done, I'll let you know.
All right. That'd be
Who knows?
great. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to give us a call or the Ethics Committee or whatnot. So there have also been some renewed discussions about the comprehensive plan update. I don't have too much to provide on information for that now. We are kind of talking to a few different entities. I know the city had kind of voted last year to go with KLC, but we're looking at a joint plan now with city, county, Junction City, and Perryville. So all of the jurisdictions are involved in that process right now, and we're talking to a few different consultants. So I'm not sure if and when that those decisions are gonna be made, but I just wanted to let you know that those conversations are happening. So hopefully sometime in the spring, we'll be getting the comp
I
plan
think
started.
that's very encouraging to hear, Michaela,
Yep.
that all four entities are working together.
I
And
don't think I've heard that before.
if I understand correctly, you're going to be playing a key role in that?
Yes, yes, I'm hopefully gonna be a big part of it. I know Josh Morgan, the city engineer, has been pretty active in it as well, the Danville city engineer. But like I said, all four jurisdictions, are represented in these conversations, so we are looking at a joint plan at this point.
Okay, is there any financial impact that's going to hit our budget from that type of work?
So probably not paying for the consultant. I think the city and the county, I think it's just gonna be Danville
Okay.
and Boyle County that are gonna be paying for it. But as far as advertisements and things are concerned, I am gonna
That's
start
different,
looking at
yeah.
that in the
Okay.
budget. Because, you know, if we have a number of public meetings and things like that, we are gonna be looking at increased costs for that aspect of it. And I'm assuming that's coming out of our budget. I haven't gotten that confirmed, but I think we should start planning for it. So.
As an editorial comment, I think it's important that all of us really start thinking about, I mean, I know I've got a lot of stuff going on this year and trips that I'm planning overseas, that kind of stuff, but when those meetings start happening, I've got to make time to budget that time to go sit and listen to those meetings, and I encourage all of us to do so too.
Yeah. Yep, a steering committee would be formed as part of this process, and typically a few planning commission members are representatives on that steering committee, so you might want to start thinking if you want to get involved in that aspect, or, you know, I'll start giving monthly updates of steering committee and whatnot for the commissioners that aren't involved in that, but if that's something that you're interested in, you should probably keep that in the back of your mind, but it's probably going to be a few months, so we'll see, but are there any more
You
questions?
have the vice chair's compliments on your positive involvement in that. I think that is tremendous.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, finally, if you need training hours, Lisa printed this out. Sorry, I told Henry I'd send this out and I haven't done it yet, but there is a pipeline training on February 21st, and I will send this email out when I get back to the office. It's at 5:30 p.m. at the Danville Country Club. So if you're in need of training hours, and I can send out what hours you all have, so you can check to see if you need them or not. I know a number of you went to the Harrodsburg training, I believe, last year, so I think most of you are good, but I will send that out, and I'll let you know if you need hours or not, so.
I don't know if there's gonna be any other training opportunities coming up. I mean, pipeline is something that a lot of us have gone to like year after year, 'cause
Okay,
it's about the only
yeah.
thing offered.
So the Bluegrass Ed does their RPC, Regional Planning Council, meetings bi-monthly. They do it either in person or via Zoom, so you could hop on Zoom. And it's usually about 1 to 2 hours at 2 p.m. I think it's the fourth Tuesday of the month, so I just went to one yesterday. But that was just the annual business meeting, so it wasn't very informative. It was kind of just going through the bylaws and whatnot. But typically, they bring in a guest speaker, and those do count as training hours for you all. So I can start including you on those calendar invites. If you just need an hour here or there, you can just hop on Zoom and listen to that. So it's a good opportunity. And I'll send others out as I hear them. I know there's always those full-day trainings that go on. I think David Pike usually does some things, and yeah, so.
Any other announcements?
No, that was it.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Tom and seconded.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tom,
seconded. Is that correct?
I missed that.
yeah, that's okay, you can put me down, there you go.
Did you
Whatever.
second
I
that?
did, sir.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all.